Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, we got a pretty important topic that we need to hit on today. One that might be getting swept under the rug, and that is going to be what the Chargers situation is at wide receiver. We're starting to hear some rumors. We're seeing some news about the Chargers bringing in some guys, maybe, covering their bases in case of something happening or not happening in the NFL draft. Guys like DJ Chark getting contacted by the Chargers. Marquez Valdez-Scantling being another guy that they're looking into. Wide receiver is going to be a big part of this team in 2024. A lot of people may be disregarding it as the Bolts are moving to more a run balance offense, but that's just the thing, run balance. There's going to be plenty of passing in this offense still, especially if your quarterback is Justin Herbert. So today we're going to go over what I think the Chargers could do, some of the top options that they could have at wide receiver, obviously via the draft, but also in free agency, etc., because we never know what the situation is going to look like even after the draft. Maybe they have a rookie that they love, but they want to add a veteran on top of that. Maybe they miss out entirely and have to find a guy in free agency to help complement that run game. A lot to go over today. So guys like, again, DJ Chark, Marquez Valdez, we're going to go over everybody that we kind of know is linked to the team, as well as huge options for the Chargers in this year's draft, which, let's be honest, is chock full of talent. It's going to be a good one for the Chargers to go out and get that guy of the future to be wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert. So before we do kick off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action. It's a great way to support me, my channel, my platform, while having a little fun along the way. Newcomers, take advantage of this special Anthony Edwards for this weekend. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action. My top wide receiver targets for the Los Angeles Chargers in 2024, again via free agency, the draft, wherever we may be able to add them, because let's kind of set the table here a little bit, okay? Once again, a lot of folks believe in that the Chargers run game is going to take over the offense. There's going to be very little involvement from a perceived wide receiver 1 in this offense, and I just got to tell you guys that isn't true. If you take a look around the NFL, most, if not all, the most successful running backs in the league do have a pretty threatening wide receiver / quarterback combo. Let's think about that for a second. Why is that? Well, it's for the same reason that the Chargers are trying to introduce a run game to help out Justin Herbert and his weapons. It works both ways. Having a good receiving option and quarterback is going to help give your running back options in terms of opportunities, because defense doesn't know what to do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but the consistent threat of Justin Herbert and an elite wide receiver is going to leave opportunities on the table for our running backs in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins to take off on the ground. So we have to remember, balance is kind of the name of the game in 2024. We need to get this running attack going for sure, but the passing attack needs to be as consistent as possible and as threatening as possible in order to give more opportunities for our guys running the football. Okay, it's going to help everybody from the offensive line running, Justin Herbert. Everything becomes easier when you have a balanced offense. And again, a couple more examples to give you guys. CMC and Deebo Samuel, very threatening combo. They complement each other. Works for San Francisco. Last season on the Titans, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, very threatening duo. They helped complement each other. Kyron Williams, who kind of had a breakout with the Los Angeles Rams. Him and Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, like he's got guys to help him out over there. So let's all remember that the run game, yes, is here to complement Herbert and the receivers. But again, the same thing works the other way around. We need receivers to help Justin Herbert in order to complement the run game, create balance in the force. All right. Another big point, again, to set the table here, of course, like we said at the top of the video, Justin Herbert is still our quarterback. Okay. When Jim Harbaugh was hired to coach the Los Angeles Chargers, I guarantee you that Justin Herbert was at the top of the list as to reasons why. He's probably the biggest, asset as to why Jim Harbaugh is in Los Angeles at all right now. It's because of Justin Herbert. And to not utilize his big arm and his passing prowess and the intelligence and reading the field, all the things that make him a great quarterback in the league, that would just be irresponsible. So again, the whole idea of a run-dominant offense is probably wrong. If I'm being quite honest with you guys, that again, part of that does exist, but not to the extent that it's being made out to be right now, because we will throw the football. Justin Herbert's still our quarterback, and he's going to need some weapons, right? Teams will take him a lot more seriously if he's got, a big name or a big potential threat or a big, talent receiving from Justin Herbert, rather than just some guys he's trying to elevate, off the wide receivers 2 and 3's list. Okay. Lastly, to set the table, the situation goes as such for Justin Herbert and his weapons. It's okay. It's not great. In terms of in contrast with the rest of the league, it probably is pretty poor. All right. Josh Palmer, I do have a lot of faith in. I will say that. I think I'm pretty confident in him. I think he'll be solid. He'll be a consistent target for Justin Herbert. But everything outside of that is a little bit iffy. Even with some of the guys that we've signed, like Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, those guys should be okay, solid, but there's not that guy on the offense right now where defenses just look at the other side and man, just get 2 guys on that dude. He's going to get open. We got to worry about him. Maybe back off a little bit. This dude could burn us up top. We need that guy. Because Quentin Johnston, he could be that dude in some way, but that's more of a coin flip to me, right? I think he'll do better with Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim has a lot of faith in him, but that's far from a certainty, right? Darius Davis, the other guys that we have at depth, that's just not going to cut it right now. So the Chargers have to do something. Not to mention that, again, you could cut it any way you want. You could slice it any way you want. The Chargers just blew up our wide receiver room this year. The new regime came in with Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz, and they said, you know what, it's time, out with the old, in with the new, and that does, heavily involve the Chargers wide receivers and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They have been our cornerstones at wide receiver for a long time now, and they came in and said, we're doing something different. And I can't help but believe that's because they have something up their sleeves, whether it be with the rookie class this season, a trade, a free agent acquisition. Sure, maybe they don't need as big of a guy, as expensive of a guy over there if they're going to be, more of a run-balanced team. But something was in the works when they made those decisions. You do not part from talent like that without a plan, okay? And I fully and firmly believe that the Chargers had a plan when they made those moves. 2 of the biggest Chargers wide receivers of all time, not on the roster anymore. There's got to be a big reason for it. Me personally, I think it's because of this draft, okay? So before we do jump into the draft, guys, let's go over some of the dudes that have been linked to the Chargers, some options for the Chargers via free agency. All right, there was a slew of guys at the top of free agency. Chargers couldn't really play in that arena too much given the cap restrictions. Now we're moving into another part of free agency. There's 2 parts to this. One, the guys that are kind of remaining that the Chargers can start talking to. These are options that are on the table even right now. But something that gets brought up a lot lately is that there's going to be a whole new wave of cuts. Guys that are very friendly to the comp pick formula that Joe Ortiz is going to try to implement in Los Angeles. There's going to be a fresh wave of guys available after the NFL draft. Teams are going to draft from this very deep pool of wide receivers and say, hey, this dude's cheaper. This guy's got a lot of upside. We want to feature the rookie this season, so we're going to cut ties with the vet. And I got to tell you guys, there's probably going to be a good handful of them this year because, again, this year's class is impressive. All right? So that even being, a shade of what to expect after the draft, here's some of the guys you can expect now that have been kind of linked. Yesterday, and the big reason why I want to do this video today, DJ Chark was linked to the Chargers. And it's one that does make a lot of sense. And it kind of feels like a plan B to me, okay? DJ Chark, solid option. Okay, not everybody's going to love it. Again, it's not the biggest name that pops off the screen for me that makes me excited, but he's solid for what he is. Decent run blocker. He's fast. I know he ran somewhere in the 4.3s. He's got that, X receiver kind of, frame. He can be the tough catch kind of guy. He's just not as consistent as you would like to see. And that's going to be the case for a lot of these guys, right? But he is what the Chargers kind of tried to make Quentin Johnston out to be last season, which just wasn't his game. If you let DJ Chark handle those duties, then maybe Quentin Johnston has a shot at breaking out to his true form, all right? But DJ Chark is on the table. Again, I think it's a solid option, but let me be clear, and this is probably the case with all the free agents here. I'm going to say yes, it is. These are all guys that I'm considering, me personally, after the draft. Now, the Chargers are visiting with them right now. They could be on the table to be signed before the draft, give them a little bit of breathing room at the position before going into, the draft, hoping, not needing to grab wide receiver as desperately. But me personally, because of how deep this draft is at the position, because of the talent that we likely are going to add even in the first round, I think that these are more plan B guys to me, and that's the way I would treat them. Again, we don't know how the Chargers are viewing it quite yet. So keep that in mind with pretty much all the free agents we're going to go over, okay? We won't spend too much time on the free agents because I'm more excited about the rookies, as you guys probably can tell. Next up, a guy that's been linked to the Chargers. I think there was a visit. I don't remember the official word on that, but Marquez Valdes-Scantling, from everything that we've heard, is a target for the Chargers in free agency, and it's one that it makes sense to me, but it does scare me a little bit, okay? But it is kind of a fit for what the Chargers are looking for. They want speed, okay? And the Chargers need it badly. This team has lacked speed for the longest friggin' time. And Marquez, if he's anything, if you were to slap a label on him and chuck him into the world, he's a speed receiver. That is his game. He's going to be the fast dude. And you know what? He's got kind of a nice frame to complement with that. He's got the QJ kind of, 6'3", 6'4" kind of guy. The problem is, just like QJ, there are some serious drop issues with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like some serious drop issues. And it's something that has plagued him very recently, as I'm sure you guys can remember, with some of the famous drops with the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty intense stuff. But it's one that, again, if the Chargers are looking for speed, this is probably your best option out there. I don't know. I'm kind of worried that this is going to turn into another Quentin Johnston rookie situation where we got the speed. Justin Herbert's hitting him in the hands. He's open. He's got separation. But the drops just kind of cancel all that stuff out. So I'm personally not too sure about this signing. Again, I get it. There is some upside here. He does make sense. But me personally, I like some of the other options a bit more because I think Justin, it's about time we give him receivers that are going to catch the football. Okay. Next free agent that we've been linked to, kind of. I don't even know what to make of this dude. I was tagged a bunch of times on Twitter. I don't even know if I should say it. It's called CTESPN. I think it's ran by Antonio Brown. Take that for what you will. Everybody was talking about it. It's probably a bunch of baloney, but there was talk about Michael Thomas being looked at by the Chargers. Again, take it with a huge grain of salt. There's, in my opinion, no validity to that quite yet. Maybe, who knows? Antonio Brown becomes the next biggest thing in sports, journalism. Anyway, Michael Thomas, it's something that I thought about a little bit at the top of the season. I was like, there's guys that we could take a shot on, okay? And at this time, I think we already took the shot on the guy I wanted to take a shot on via injury, and that was J.K. Dobbins, all right? Michael Thomas is a whole nother story. This dude is the consistency machine in terms of getting injured the last several seasons, right? The last year I can remember this kind of move making sense was like 2019, right? He went for like 1,600, probably 1,700 yards that season. He was a monster for a while. They called him the slot god, right? The slot machine, whatever. He was awesome, right? He was getting open, he was generating yards, and he was a big target back in the day for the Saints. But I say back in the day because it has been a back in the day kind of situation. It has been years, folks, years. And I'm not going to say that Michael Thomas doesn't have, the potential to bounce back to form a little bit or some shape or remnants of it, but I don't know about it. All I know is that he would probably be pretty cheap. I think he was projected somewhere around like $5 million, which is definitely, I guess that's fine if you want to take a shot on that. But if the Chargers were to do something like this, between Michael Thomas and J.K. Dobbins, Ben Herbert would have to be going out there performing miracles, doing the whole Mr. Miyagi thing and just hoping for the best every single week. Again, I kind of got the guy already I wanted to take a shot on. Michael Thomas, to me, it would probably be more of a pass. All right. Next guy that is kind of linked to the Chargers. I don't know if anything officially has come out yet, but Odell Beckham Jr. is a very legitimate option. A lot of people, and I get it, man. It's not Odell Beckham Jr. with the famous catch in the Giants. There's been a lot of time since then. I understand that. But this is still a great talent, all right? If you can push his name out of your mind for a second and just look at what he's been doing, he's been a solid dude where he's been, man. Like, he's contributed. Especially if he's been able to stay healthy, which lately it kind of feels like it's been the case. Like, he's been awesome. And a lot of things that I was concerned about back in the day where I didn't really want him on my team, a lot of it had to do with maturity, and it feels like he's overcome a lot of that. Everything that I've seen from him, behind the scenes with this team in the locker room, he's been a team-oriented dude. He kind of finally fell into that veteran leader that I've hoped to see him in for a while, and I think that he still brings a lot of big playability. A lot of the plays that I saw, even from, recently with the Ravens, they were big. They were game-moving, and it's something that, again, it feels like that kind of experience in the Ravens system, that kind of availability for Justin Herbert, it's probably one of the better veteran options that you're going to find in free agency to kind of carry that torch, be the veteran, and still be a dude that can help some rookies along, some young players like Quentin Johnston and maybe a rookie that we draft. So OBJ, still a very solid name for me. Some people are going to push against it. I get it. He's probably not even the best guy on this list via free agency, but it's one that I would very much so endorse. And he has a foot in the Ravens system, which gives him a big boost, I'm sure, for Joe Ortiz. Next up, Hunter Renfrow. A lot of guys wondering about him. Is he going to be a dude that's available? Has he regressed too much? He hasn't really been part of the Raiders offense for a few seasons now. I would say he's a solid option. Like, if you need a slot guy, right? He's not my favorite, but he's solid. If you need somebody to move the chains, it's a name out there. Won't spend too much time on him. Next up, Michael Gallup. And it's kind of funny, those two, I kind of fell back to back on my list here because Hunter Renfrow, you'll be able to find him in a lot of situations where you got to move the chains. A little bit like what we needed from Keenan Allen. He's nowhere near Keenan, but that kind of flavor of receiver. Well, Michael Gallup is definitely the kind of flavor of receiver that Mike Williams was. You can almost call it Mike Williams light for this team, potentially, right? I don't remember if he's been officially linked, but it would make, again, a lot of sense. He does lack consistency, a little bit like from what we saw with DJ Chark, but I do see more big plays out of Michael Gallup. This dude, a couple of years ago, I don't know how much time I've spent, paying attention to Michael Gallup, but I remember every play that he was featured in. He was toe tapping on the sideline. He was catching through contact. He had that kind of big playability to his game with some respectable speed on top of it. So I don't know. I think Michael Gallup, it's one that makes sense if they want that X kind of guy, that Williams kind of role on the team still. All right. To help round out the free agents, Tyler Boyd is probably the biggest name I'm hearing from the fandom that they want to add from this pool of free agents that are left on the table, okay? And it makes a lot of sense to me because I feel like this is the best option and maybe even the best bet to come to the Chargers at this point. Tyler Boyd is an awesome talent. Him and Joe Burrow, they've been lighting it up for a while now. And although a lot of people will consider Tyler Boyd just a slot kind of dude, I think that's something that this team needs right now because I don't know in terms of, guys that can convert, guys that can get us first downs, guys that can just generate consistent yardage. I don't know what we have right now that can do it at the level of Tyler Boyd. Again, I have a lot of respect and a lot of faith in Josh Palmer to be that dude for the Chargers in situations that call for, but Boyd just kind of brings a little bit more proof for me because of what he's been able to accomplish with Joe Burrow over the years. I think as the last time I looked at, he was projected around an $8 million per year contract. That feels kind of right for what we would need. He's got the veteran experience, right? He still provides a lot of value in terms of a player, but again, he's 29 going on 30. He's going to be able to bring some of that mentorship to the young guys. Yeah, he's my top guy via free agency at this point. You can pair him with a rookie very easily. He's not going to stop you from getting a top option in the draft, and he brings that, experience to the position that we really need at this point. Now let's get into the rookies. The biggest reason I wanted to do this video today, one that I think everybody has a pretty good foundation on at this point. I think Chargers fans sort of understand the playground that we're going into next week in terms of the drafts with the guys that we're all rooting for. But again, I just want to make sure this net is out there, that it's as wide as possible, that we have a good, firm understanding of most of these dudes, because I have a feeling that one of these guys is going to be the Chargers wide receiver one. I'm not just talking about the top three on the chart or on the screen right now, but there could be a guy later on, in late round 1, early round 2, maybe even round 3, that could potentially be wide receiver 1 for the Los Angeles Chargers. And you know what? This draft class, it's got the talent to back that up. Most draft classes, you probably couldn't ask that of a second or third round guy. This season, you can definitely do that. Okay, not to mention the situation the receivers would be coming into, the offense, the quarterback situation. It's just all kind of prime ready for these dudes to succeed. So let's go ahead and start with my top rookie options. Of course, you guys are going to know my number one. Definitely Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people drawing a line in the sand. Am I a Harrison guy? Am I a Neighbors guy? Some people a Dunze guy. Me, I am definitely a Marvin Harrison Jr. guy. I think if you're looking for the next sure thing at wide receiver, the next big superstar, he's been linked to guys like Larry Fitzgerald over and over and over again because he is just so freaking talented. It's shown up pretty much his entire career in college. He's as sure of a prospect as we've ever seen. As much as I love Neighbors and his upside, and as ecstatic as I would be to take him too, let's not be fooled here. I'm not saying I want Harrison or nothing. I would be very happy with Neighbors as well. But out of the guys, this is my preference. Okay, and in terms of what the Chargers are looking for, Marvin Harrison Jr. has to be wide receiver one, talent one in this entire draft. All right, I don't think that comes as a shocker to anybody. What could come as a shocker is this next part. I think the second wide receiver that, again, for the Chargers, top options for the Chargers, I do think could end up being Rome Odunze. Some people will hate hearing that, but let me explain, okay? Between him and Malik Neighbors, I think me personally, I'm still taking Malik Neighbors. But if we're talking about fit, and this is something I probably should have put in my hot takes video, if we're talking about fit, it could be Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze, outside of Marvin Harrison, could be wide receiver one. He could be the big guy that they want in this offense. And I say big guy for a reason. He's huge. He fits the X receiver role. He's what, 6'3", 6'4"? He's got the speed. He's got the separation. He's got all the tools that you're looking for, maybe outside of the yards after the catch, to be wide receiver one for any team. And honestly, even that is kind of nitpicking. He's an awesome talent. These top three guys are just so locked in, ready to go. Welcome to the NFL. You're wide receiver, you're a top 15 wide receiver all of a sudden. Like, it's insane to think about, but Rome Odunze is also in that tier for me. So Rome Odunze, definitely going to be a guy that the Chargers are looking at. And let's be honest, I'm kind of saying this because I don't want you guys to be disappointed or shocked if, let's say, Marvin Harrison goes before the Chargers and we stick and pick and it ends up being Rome Odunze over Neighbors. And I'm here to tell you guys this right now. Odunze is still such a huge friggin' win for this team. Some players, or some fans I should say, are comparing him to Quentin Johnston because he wears number 1. He's got kind of a similar frame. I'm telling you right now, they are two completely different players. Rome Odunze, and as much, and then this is not docking on QJ, I'm trying not to, but Rome Odunze is in any other class wide receiver one by a mile. He is awesome, and he would be a great fit for this Chargers team. That probably needs an X receiver. So him and Marvin Harrison probably have the edge over our next guy in Malik Neighbors. But let's be clear. Again, me personally, I'm probably still taking Malik Neighbors over Rome Odunze if those are the choices given at that time. And it's because Neighbors just brings something that we've never had in this team. I shouldn't say never, but we haven't had in a very long time. Okay? When it comes to big playability and that kind of speed and the kind of explosion that he provides, I don't know if the Chargers have had somebody like that since Darren Sproles, maybe? It's very special. It's something that you don't see every day, and it sticks out. It stands out against the rest of the NFL. It's a very special thing when your receiver can take it to the house literally in a 2-yard reception almost every single time. That threat exists. Not to mention what he can do up top, over his route running, his just. There's so much to love about Malik Neighbors. A lot of people, they dock him because he doesn't have the size, the prototypical size to be wide receiver one or an X wide receiver. I disagree. I think he would be great in that situation. I think his speed is enough to really shoot him up the board for me. And again, Odunze is no slouch either. He's also very fast. Marvin Harrison's now is pretty decently fast as well. But Malik Neighbors is on a whole new level. He would be just so fantastic with this team. So Malik Neighbors, who I still think is the most likely guy to the Chargers, would be a huge get for me. And you add him to a team that is wanting to run the ball more, that has Justin Herbert, has Jim Harbaugh. He's going to take those few opportunities, right? Let's say there's not as many opportunities, there's not as many targets this season because we are more run balance. He's going to take those opportunities and make the most out of it. You'll see a stat sheet of, 7 targets to Malik Neighbors, 6 targets to Malik Neighbors, 3 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Like, that's the kind of player he is. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Okay. Next up, probably another shocker. I don't know how people are going to take this, but my next receiver that I think the Chargers, like in terms of like best to worst or whatever, is Brock Bowers. But what, director? This is a tight end. Why are we doing tight end and wide receiver video? It's because Brock freaking Bowers would be wide receiver 1 for this team if he was drafted where I think he's going to go. I think Brock Bowers all of a sudden becomes the top receiving option for the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert, and it's a very good situation to be in because let's be honest, actually Brock Bowers can do things that no receiver in this class can do, right? Where he's lining up, his ability to block, his ability to affect every single snap of football for the Chargers on offense, it exists in this player. This is a super friggin' special talent that we may not see the likes of in terms of talent again through the draft, maybe ever again. Like he is such a unicorn, such an outlier at the position. His speed, his receiving ability, his blocking ability, his yards after the catch and contact and everything. It is just so impressive to watch him play. And when you talk about a Chargers team that let's say are lacking, let's say even after the draft they get Brock Bowers, but they're kind of lacking at receiver. Let's say they do get Tyler Boyd. Brock Bowers is receiver 1 for this team. He'll line up in the slot. He'll line up outside even. Of course, he'll line up, at tight end as well, but he would be the dude for Justin Herbert, and he would thrive. I think it's as crazy as it is to think about. At minimum, I look at Brock Bowers in his rookie season, even at tight end, as a 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown dude. And that's kind of my floor for him. He could easily, depending on what kind of situation he's put into, he could easily be a 1,200-yard, 10-touchdown guy. Especially if he's receiver 1 for his next team. I don't know. Him to the Chargers feels like what Kyle Pitts should have been to a team with a good quarterback. Like if Kyle Pitts goes to a different system, a different team, if he goes to the Lions back in the day or whatever that had, Matt Stafford, we're thinking of a completely different Kyle Pitts at this point. He'd be probably the best tight end in the league. That didn't happen because he went to the Falcons, who really don't have a great passing attack, no great quarterback, no offense identity for a while now. Bowers would be a much different situation. And I think he would be wide receiver 1. I won't say wide receiver. I would say receiver 1 for this team if selected by the Chargers. And put into that situation. He would thrive, man. He'd be so fun to watch. All right. Next up, if the Chargers decide to trade down, whatever the situation may be, we have some more late, first round guys, second round guys will be coming up here in a second too. Brian Thomas Jr. is my next guy after Rome Odunze. I gotta make this clear though. There's a huge gap, right? Rome Odunze, huge gap. Brian Thomas. But Brian Thomas is also awesome, right? He will need a little bit more work, a little bit more time maybe to settle into wide receiver 1 or, that big threat than one of those, surefire guys at the top, those top 3 guys. But Brian Thomas still has a lot of talent and a lot of things to offer for a team in terms of the uncoachable things like speed and height and size. Like he's a really good fit for, X receiver. He's a really good deep threat guy. And he's one that I think the Chargers, they could consider it. Like if they get a really nice offer in terms of a trade down, but they still want receiver, if they're happy with Brian Thomas and an extra first, I could definitely see that happening. But if I'm looking for a receiver, I think I stick and pick at the top 3. Either way, Brian Thomas Jr., very good talent. Another guy that I think if the Chargers do trade down is a much more likely scenario is going to be Adonai Mitchell. This guy you can probably find in the late first round. Some people are seeing him in the second round. But like Brian Thomas, again, there's a little bit of a gap there. He's also got that size. He's got the speed. And I actually kind of like the route running a little bit more from Mitchell as well. Maybe not as many as the big plays, but he feels more like a well-rounded wide receiver. Again, that kind of shocked everybody with the 4-3-3 that he ran. He would be an awesome option and a great, late first rounder if the Chargers wanted to go that route. And then one of the last guys I'll say is a late first rounder for me. Some people are saying a second rounder. I still view him as a late first. Is going to be Ladd McConkey. Probably one of my favorite players in the draft for where he's being drafted. I love what he brings in terms of separation of speed, right? Especially a lot of people dismiss that, but the dude is really quick. His route running's insane. His ability to get open is insane. Again, because he's not 6'4", and he doesn't have that kind of build, I think he's going to fall, in the late first, early second, but he's a guy that I can easily see this offense operating very smoothly with because he will be just plain and simply available. to Justin Herbert. All right. If you want more of a perimeter guy, I think a huge value in the second round would be a guy like Xavier Legette. Leggett is just such a Williams-esque player, Mike Williams, but if you injected him with a little bit more speed, a lot of the big plays I saw from Leggett are, sideline catches in double coverage, or he's burned a guy deep. Leggett is an awesome option for somebody that's looking for a perimeter receiver, and the Chargers could be looking for something like that. In terms of separation, I think he's not bad. There's other guys that I like more, like McConkey, but if you're looking for a perimeter guy in specific, like this is one of the better guys you'll find in like the second round. Another second round guy that I love, not a lot of Chargers fans are in love with the idea quite yet, but Keon Coleman is a great talent. He ran a very poor, 40, which is going to make him fall. Could be in the lap of the Chargers in the second round. Lord forbid the third round. But Coleman, he's a highlight reel machine. Like what we're talking about with Leggett, he's got a lot of those big catches on the sideline. I view that in Coleman, but he's a much, I would say, more dangerous red zone target. He's got more of that physicality to his game. And sure, what he lacks in speed and separation, he makes up for in just dominant physical play. Like you throw in his direction, you throw against, single coverage, he's going to body that dude out. He's going to come down with something nice. So I like Coleman a lot. I would still take him in the second round, especially if the Chargers are looking for wide receiver one. He's 6'4", big, physical. He would be a dog for this team. But if you're looking for more separation guys, Roman Wilson could end up being a pretty solid value in the second round. Some people say he should have been in the first round if it were any other season. I kind of agree with that. The one thing that's kind of hindering him is that he's viewed mainly as a slot receiver, which is completely fair. But what he does from the slot is ridiculous. Him and Ladd McConkey and this next guy, in terms of separation, are some of the best I've seen come through the draft. And of course, the top three guys shine these dudes by a mile in terms of stuff like that. But Roman Wilson, even if he's viewed as more of a slot guy, you put him in a system that runs a lot of RPO and play action. I don't know if it matters where he lines up. He'll be awesome. So Roman Wilson, to me, a great talent, super fast, hugely good in separation, obviously a Harbaugh guy. Good chance of him in the second round if the Chargers opt to go a different position in round one. The other guy I wanted to mention that does carry a lot of those same traits. Some people like him better than Roman Wilson. I would say just kind of flip a coin here. I like these guys both quite a bit. Ricky Pearsall, this dude, again, a lot of the same things I talked about with Roman Wilson, even down to the fact that some people only view him as a slot guy. He's great. He's great in terms of separation. And that's kind of the big reason I like these guys. McConkey, Wilson, Pearsall. These are values that you're going to find likely in the late first or second rounds that are going to bring a lot of separation. And that kind of feels like a big part of what this offense is going to need, separation and speed. If you're going to be trying to open things up in the run, because let's be honest, if you see one less guy in the box and you're Roman Wilson, you're kind of, drooling all over yourself, like, let's go, hand it off to Gus. We're going to see a lot of, success on the ground. And then once they start, loading up in the box, you'll be able to find a guy like Pearsall or Wilson or McConkey or one of the top three receivers with an opportunity for a big play. And all these guys are great big play dudes. Wilson's got great speed to take it to the house. Pearsall's got great separation and huge yardage. McConkey's got great speed too. All these guys are awesome. Okay? I think Pearsall's got some good speed on him too. So these are all great options. The last guy I'll say, in terms of maybe wide receiver one potential, like fringe for me, Jalen Polk. Rewind to what I talked about with Keon Coleman, probably him and Xavier Leggett. Those guys, more possession dudes. Polk probably not as fast as Leggett, but he's probably one of the best 50-50 ball guys in this draft, which is kind of crazy because he's not the biggest dude. I think he's still pretty big, like 6'2", 6'3". I think 6'2", but his ability to catch through contact is pretty impressive. So I like this guy quite a bit too. Those are kind of the wide receiver one guys. The last guys I'll kind of like honorable mention here. There are a handful of wide receiver 2s and 3s that I feel pretty confident that would shine in this offense. Guys like Xavier Worthy, who I don't think is going to be available where I would draft him. I would draft Worthy in like the 3rd round. I think he's going to go like early 2nd, maybe late 1st if a team really falls in love with that 40 time. But if he's available in the 3rd, that speed with Justin Herbert, you can't pass on that. Malik Washington, another great slot guy with the explosion and speed, would be really, really good in this offense. Javon Baker, Jermaine Burton, Devontae Walker, all guys that I love. The guy on the screen here, though, in Jacob Cowing, this dude, super exciting to watch, man. I actually just got looking at some of what he's got to offer, and he looks great. Maybe, again, not the prototypical size, but he's got great speed. He's got great separation, really savvy route runner. Like the guy quite a bit. He'd be an awesome compliment guy. And then other dudes I really like a lot. Brendan Rice could end up being something special. Anaya Smith in the slot. Taj Washington in the slot. This draft is just ridiculously deep, okay? And some would even say that a wide receiver 2, perceived wide receiver 2 in our offense could thrive as the number 1 guy, just because you know how much we would be using them. I'm more veering towards the opinion that our receivers are going to get a lot of work, especially wide receiver 1. Okay, there's going to be a lot more opportunity to hit those big plays with these receivers behind a strong running attack, and that's why guys that stand out to me quite a bit are dudes like Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers. Dudes that can take it to the house. Dudes that are hard to bring down. Dudes that have the big play ability, because I want to capitalize on those opportunities as much as possible. You got a wide open play action, in a deep go route. Take the shot, man. You got Neighbors. He'll get open. You got, an opportunity on a post or a corner. Brock Bowers, take the shot. He'll break a couple of tackles into the end zone. Like, I want dudes that can capitalize on those opportunities to the fullest effect of scoring. Okay, and this draft is just chock full of them. And yeah, some of the later guys also carry some of that potential too. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for in terms of talent, in terms of what this offense is asking of these guys. A great season to do that, and that is why I firmly believe that the Chargers are going to be going receiver at some point in the draft. A lot of these wide receivers that we're seeing via free agency, I think these are going to be dudes that you find after the fact. If you, let's say you find a great perimeter guy, right? Let's say the Chargers, they go out and they draft like an Xavier Leggett. This is where a dude like, Tyler Boyd steps in and says, hey, now we got the slot cover, we've got our veteran guy, we feel pretty complete, let's go. I think the bottom line that I wanted to make with this video, probably the most important thing that we have to remember as a fandom, is that the Chargers, just because we're changing and we're becoming more run balanced, doesn't mean we're not going to pass. The best running backs and the best running attacks in the NFL have a very good complement at receiver and most of the time quarterback. Debo to CMC, D-Hop to Derrick Henry, right? Cooper Kupp to Kyron Williams. These are the kind of things that complement each other. And the receiver-quarterback combo, it helps your run game as much as your run game helps your quarterback. And we have to make sure that that kind of talent's on the roster to help defenses respect both parts of our game. Because if they can just sell versus the run 60, 70% of the time, it doesn't matter how much we want to run the football, they're going to be able to stop it. We need a receiver that they respect with Justin Herbert's arm to give those running backs more space to operate, and vice versa. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty. I'm still going to peg my best bet to the Chargers at number 5, Malik Neighbors. Let's go.